we ready? Thank you, Michelle. We apologize for our late start, but we'd like to welcome all out to the Riverdale City Planning Commission for Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. We have all of the planning commissioners present tonight. Would like to personally welcome Amy back.
Thanks.
She's been out of commission for a few of our meetings, but it's always good to have her back. She's got a lot of good insights that help us. We'd next move on to our item B for the agenda, public comment. We have that open to any comments from the public, but seeing none here, we will move on to the next item, presentation and reports. Mr. Cooper, please.
Thank you, Chair. Related to the code updates, we'll be seeing some of that tonight in this meeting, but myself and Michelle has been a really big help actually to look at other code updates that are necessary. We've talked about a couple as it relates to our residential treatment facilities as well as short-term rentals. So those are in the works right now, but we're really looking at a comprehensive revision to Title 10. So get used to maybe this kind of a topic over the next number of months as we look to update and clean up our code in a comprehensive way. And tonight is going to be something that is imposed upon us by the state, as you'll hear in just a moment. Additionally, I wanted to update you on the Schneider's golf course. I had mentioned, I think previously, maybe in this meeting, certainly in the city council meeting as well, that the Schneider site plan approval was granted a number of months ago, and some of that work was inconsistent with the approved site plan. So I just wanted to let the commission know that we are working with the golf course staff and the contractor to correct those items and to make sure that that gets done right, and they're being cooperative. The America First Credit Union project is moving along. We've had a number of meetings about the bridges at 4400. We actually saw some renderings today for the first time of what those bridges will look like in terms of the abutments and the widths and those kind of things. So that's working out really well. We still don't anticipate construction to happen until January or February of next year. And there is a significant cost increase that is being imposed on the city for what's called a betterment. And those are things that are outside the scope of the UDOT work and are really the cost of the city. Right now, that's $1.6 million, and they're telling us that the costs have increased about $600,000. So we're trying to work that out. And then you may know from previous conversations that we moved to buy Peacock Ridge. Peacock Ridge, if you recall, was a PRUD that was approved a number of years ago on the hillside that is not really in a great location. The city was concerned about it, has been concerned about it for a long time. We've closed on that transaction, so the city of Riverdale is now the owner of that land, and we'll be moving to vacate that subdivision, create a new plat that combines the city-owned parcels. And Michelle and I are actually working on seeking grant funds for potentially a trail or some other cool public use up there. That is my report.
All right. Thank you. Any additional questions from the commissioners for that item? All right. We'll next move to our consent items. We have consideration for meeting minutes from September 24th, 2024 for both the work session and the regular meeting. Were there any corrections that we needed to have for that official record? If not, then a motion would be in order, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from September 24th, 2024 work session and regular meeting.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. All right, thank you. Next, Our action items, we have public hearing for an ordinance amending Riverdale Municipal Ordinance Code, Title 21, Chapter 21, to add new or modifying existing sections in compliance with the 2024 Utah Legislature House Bill 476, which further clarifies subdivision procedures and related matters.
I move that we open the public hearing.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So we now call the public hearing, open the public hearing. And Mr. Cooper, do you have any,
Yeah, let me take a minute to introduce Mr. Jay Springer.
please?
He is our representative on this item. He works with Smith Hartfisson. I can't say the name of the law firm, I'm sorry. Anyway, he is contracted with the city. As I mentioned before previously, sometimes the state imposes mandates upon cities in regards to our land use code. This is one of those times. You've all heard from Mr. Springer last year in January about a previously imposed change to our code under HB 476. And so he's here tonight to discuss some of the proposed changes from HB 174 that relate to our subdivision ordinance. So we'll turn the time over to you.
Yeah. So when I was here in January of this year, it was from the legislation in 2023. So unlike most mandates, this one was actually funded. So there was, funding available to for approved vendors to get access to it to support municipalities in enacting these. So the Senate Bill 174 from 2023 introduced this new process that we talked about. Then 2024 came, and there were several changes. We'll only talk about the ones that potentially affect Riverdale here, and one of those is the change that clarified when subdivision improvement plans and subdivision improvement plan review happens. We talked about review cycles before, and this is narrowing in on what those are. That is when these 20 business day cycles start, and then the city has to respond, and the developer has to respond. They have to have these itemized lists that go through everything. And if you don't respond, if the city doesn't identify a problem in an application, it waives the right to bring it up later. And if the applicant doesn't address every single thing that the city tells them to, then it's on hold until they do. So there's no piecemeal. It really does put a lot of power in the staff and the city in responding to these, because it really dictates that it's got to be a comprehensive review. So the proposed changes, and you should all have a red line, deal with that. So there are just a handful of sections that I want to flag. There are a number of other very minor changes that, just as I was going through, caught them. The first is in section 1021.5, subsection D. And this is probably the biggest change, and that is moving the substantive review of subdivision improvement plans, and these are your cross sections, your utility drawings, the civil drawings, that really require your professional staff to review to make those calls. And this specifies that at this stage of preliminary application, any comments that are made there are non-substantive. So if it doesn't require that be submitted as part of the application, it does require it for final. And it says if we do provide it, if the city provides any comments on those, it's really informational. It's for their benefit, but we're not going to be held to that. So those are those two red lines, I guess, on E and F there. And then in the next section, 21, or the next page, 21.7, that's just reiterating that same point. We moved the same text, so the same standards for review that were previously in preliminary were moved into final, now subsection C there, and clarified that there will not be a substantive review again under A, that change, that there's no preliminary review of no review of the final until we've gone through preliminary. And in the same section now, section E is another one that relates to specifically phased developments, and that is, saying that if they're going to provide anything, bring any application to the Planning Commission, to staff, that anticipates any component at all being satisfied in a future development or phase, then it has to go through the legislative process of getting a development agreement first. So, I mean, that's kind of how it's already built in. If they check all the boxes, they are entitled to approval. We're just saying, if you don't check the boxes as we want them checked, you get to go through where we have a lot more discretion as a town, as a city, to get and negotiate and get the things that we want, if they want to do that. So one of the common examples is, all right, if I don't know if you have a specific threshold, but say 20 units, now you have to have 2 roads, 2 access points. You can't have a cul-de-sac, you can't have a turnaround once you get above a certain number of units, right? Well, then they say, well, we're going to have a road going through this other property that we own when we do the next phase. We say, well, great, bring a development agreement. That's kind of the thought process there. And those are kind of the big points. Happy to address any of the other changes that you might have seen in the red line. And then procedure wise, once a recommendation is made from the Planning Commission, we'll go to the council. We'll have an adoption ordinance, and then it'll be effective when it's updated at the council level. So, and one other thing I wanted to bring back up is any of these development agreements that I'm talking about, whether it's for phasing, by law have to come to the Planning Commission for a recommendation to go to the council. So, that's another level that you'll get to see these things as they come. So.
Okay, commissioners, any questions for Mr. Springer?
So we don't approve the final one, just the preliminary, right?
Right.
So when it gets right down to the nitty-gritty, the final portion, only the city council takes care of that for us.
No, that is staff level for the subdivision specifically.
Okay.
And this is also when we did this in January, we partitioned this to only the 3 types of subdivisions that are mandated, which are single family, townhomes, and duplexes. So any of the commercial or multi-use or multi-family, they go through the old process.
I have one question, and I'm sorry. I mean, I get swimming through these reams of documents. Now, the city has 20 days once we're on the clock, we have 20 days. If there are exceptions that the developer has not met, and those are requirements, are they restricted to any amount of time that limits that before they have to start a reprocess, or avoids the process?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things on that process. One is, if they take too long, we get more time to review it when they come back. We can also, and I don't know, I wasn't looking for it this time around. We may have addressed it the first time, but we can set timelines where if they don't take action within 6 months on an application or a year, it goes away and they have to reapply. If they make substantial changes, material changes to the application, then staff has discretion to say, no, this is a new application. We're not gonna we're not going to go through another full review when you on the same fee on the same application timelines. Like you're no longer vested for this is a new application, right? So there's a couple of things there, but no, at the state level, the only timeline is if they don't respond within a reasonable time, then I think it's 40 days or 20 days, then we get another 20 days. So if they take 6 months to go fix something, we don't have to then respond in 20 business days when they come back. And they are business days. So, I mean, we're talking about a full month.
Right.
So,
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Springer? Okay, then would be appropriate for a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I just want to note that there is no one here to comment in the public hearing, just for the record.
Thank you. Good detail. But we wanted to go through this process so that if citizens wanted to go back and review the meeting, they have some foundation as to what the process is that we're considering. So, do we need a poll for this one to close
Not
it?
to close it, but you
Okay.
will for your recommendation.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. We'll next move to item EB, consideration to forward a recommendation to the City Council regarding for an ordinance amending the Riverdale Municipal Ordinance Code Title 21, Chapter 21, to add new or modify existing sections in compliance with the 2024 Utah State Legislature House Bill 476, further clarifying subdivision procedures and related matters. Okay, so we'll open this up for discussion with the commissioners then. Any questions that we have for Mr. Cooper or Mr. Springer?
or any recommendations of things you just want us to be thinking about as we finalize and get it ready?
I appreciate all your hard work on this.
Of course.
Well, next then, we would entertain a motion for a recommendation.
I'll make a recommendation for motion to recommend consideration to forward a recommendation to the city council regarding for an ordinance amending the Riverdale Municipal Ordinance Code, Title 21, Chapter 21, to add new or modifying existing sections in compliance with the 2024 Utah State Legislature's House Bill 476, further clarifying subdivision procedures and related matters.
And
I'll
your
second.
recommendation is,
To forward that to
Positive.
as a positive recommendation.
all right, thank you.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All right, Michelle, would you poll the commissioners, please?
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes?
Commissioner Polson,
Yes.
Commissioner Nye,
Yes.
Commissioner Spires,
Yes.
Commissioner Nolan,
Yes.
Commissioner Henstra,
Yes.
Commissioner Herman.
Yes.
Okay, so the voting has been unanimous to forward that to the city council.
Now, when this go to the city council, will you present this to them and the city council also?
I'm planning on it. Is it next week?
Yeah, sorry, it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
We'll double check on the calendar.
And it's going to
but-
be Wednesday,
Okay,
the day after the election.
that's a
right.
great time. Thank you, commissioners. We'll confirm, but I anticipate that being the case.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Never the meeting is.
Thank you. All right. Our next item on the agenda is comments. Any comments that you would like to raise I have one that I would like to, just something that I noticed as I went down here along to the park over here. I noticed as you come out of the parking area, it seems like it's a lot of willows, but it obscures your view being able to see any oncoming traffic, because you got to pull out considerably to get past that. I don't know if the city can manage or mitigate that somehow, but I noticed that it was a concern pulling out of that parking area.
Alrighty.
I just want to publicly say, because it happens this time of year until we have time change again next spring, but thank the Riverdale City Police Department for always being around in the parking lot when we're leaving and it's dark. So,
We'll pass that along.
I would also like to note that the fire department did a great job on their open house. It seemed like it was really well attended, and I know they always put a lot of effort into putting a good event on. It's appreciated.
I'd also like to give the fire department kudos for putting out the fire behind the trailer park on the weeds over there as fast as they did, because that could have been a major disaster in the trailer courts. As fast as that was going and burning, they was there exceptionally fast and had it under control, or that whole trailer court could have been a big problem, because it was just probably 10 feet away from the trailers with all them weeds probably 4 feet high. Which brings me to my last question on weed control. Some of these areas around are getting some tall, dry weeds. What is the city doing, or can they do anything to try to cut that down and be, proactive before something gets on fire and burns big time real fast?
So as you know, Steve May is our code enforcement officer that falls under the property maintenance code. And he does frequently give citations for those things. He's been a little preoccupied with a couple of big cases that he's been working on. And so I'm not quite sure what the consistency of that has been over the last few weeks. Plus, he was gone for about a month. But I'll mention it to him as well. I know it's important to him. We've talked about it on a number of occasions.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Keep it.
I'll wheel you out.
I can do it. I can do it. You don't have to wheel me out.
You want me to bring the car around?
No, I can walk up. I'm just slow.
And
You want us to stand behind you if you don't go backwards?
No, I just
not-
hold on.
Do you want us to like four-man carry?
Mary.
We've got a couple of Boy Scouts. We can do the two-arm carry.
That's been a few years. We could be like the linemen on a football team that are pushing the running back
Yeah.
over the goal line so they get first down.
Oh, man.
They get hit first. Not use their helmet. That used to be
Are you
illegal.
getting feeling back in your foot?
Hit first and you have their helmet.
And I got a big mass of fluid right here on my side where the incision is.
Do you think that that's contributing to the?
We think it might. They drained it yesterday and it's back bigger than it was. So I go in the morning and they'll re-drain it. And if that doesn't work,
Yeah, well, and it was confusing.
then he'll go
because
in
it was the same
surgically,
because you said
drain it, put a drain in it. And he said if he does that, then he'll look at that nerve specifically
Yeah, so
and see
everything was right except
what
that
could
date
be
it
wrong.
was on the agenda.
The pain is just crazy, ridiculous.
I don't mean this offensive, but you look like a cat that's been drugged through a knothole by its tail. I mean, you can just see it
I
in
was
your
gonna
face.
put on makeup and try, but even if I did, I still would just look defeated.
And that's the best way to describe that is you
So
just,
defeated. like my first two surgeries, I did pretty good and came back swinging hard. And this just throttled
It's
me.
been exhausting.
Oh, so exhausted.